Okay, I'd like to welcome everybody back to Alabama Care. We are here in Montgomery, and we have the Alabama State Treasurer, Mr. John McMillan, and Anita Kelley, the Director of the Savings Division here in Alabama. And today we're going to be talking about the new Alabama ABLE Savings Plan. And at this point, I'd like to hand it over. Treasurer McMillan, if you would introduce yourself.
I'm happy to, Alex. Let me say first, thank you so much for coming down and visiting with us, because we do have great news happening almost right now in Alabama. The same day that the legislature finished their session at 3:15 that afternoon, they passed a bill we had to enable Alabama citizens with disabilities to have savings accounts. I was elected treasurer in 2010. That's not right. I was elected treasurer in 2016, and following Young Boozer, who was a fantastic treasurer for Alabama, did many great things. And one of the things we've been able to focus on with Anita's help is our ABLE plan. And it's, for those of you that may not know, it's achieving a better life experience for folks with disabilities. My wife and I happen to have a son who's down, so we're very familiar with this and very familiar with the challenges and the wonderful opportunities that folks in a similar situation deal with daily.
We appreciate you having us down here as well. And we always like to ask, are you originally from Alabama?
I am from down in Baldwin County, and came to Montgomery temporarily about 40 years ago, and have been involved in state government one way or another ever since.
I'm familiar with Baldwin County. I have some family that lives down there in Fairhope, which is kind of next to it, in Mobile County there.
Yeah, Fairhope is a real popular place, especially for retirees. You're not looking at that, are you?
I am not, no, but I've heard they have like a great festival with arts and crafts down there, and it's a very nice area there.
But getting back to this legislation, we opened the opportunity for folks with the ABLE accounts to be able to get tax deductions on Alabama income taxes, $5,000 up to $5,000 on a single filer and $10,000 on a joint filing. And I always like to use this when I'm talking about any of the savings programs that Anita is responsible for in our office. Einstein once said, people that understand compound interest will have an opportunity to save a lot of money. People that do not never will. So I think about that often and use that quote because it certainly fits well with what we are trying to do with our new Alabama ABLE program. And we rolled it out the same day the legislature passed the bill, so we were really thankful. We had no assurances it was going to pass, but we were optimistic and got it done.
Well, I think it makes sense for all perspectives, for the state, for all the families involved, for the individuals involved. It's a great way to save money there and have that tax advantage.
Absolutely.
Now, you mentioned the compound interest. I've heard it referred to as the eighth wonder of the world.
That's what he called it. That's part of Einstein's quote, I think.
Yeah. And so it's, we were talking about just, how you let that money grow and it can kind of take off on its own and surprise you.
Yeah.
Mrs. Kelley, if you would introduce yourself.
I'm Anita Kelley, and I am the Director of the Savings Division for State Treasurer McMillan. So I manage 3 programs, and one of them is the ABLE program.
And what are the other 2?
The other 2 is, one of them's PACT, been around for a long time. It is closed to new enrollment. And then the other one is our 529 plan, College Counts. So it's for saving for higher education.
Gotcha. And we always like to ask, are you originally from Alabama?
I am. I grew up in the Dothan area. So,
okay.
Yeah.
So both a little bit south, right?
Right.
Dothan's a little bit south there.
Right.
Another follow-up question, Roll Tide or War Eagle?
I try to stay out of that. I went to school in Tennessee, so I can kind of dodge it. All of my family went to Auburn till we got to my son and his generation, and they're more Alabama folks, especially his wife. So I try to just kind of stay neutral.
Yeah, stay neutral.
I used to worry about it a lot. I don't worry about it anymore. As I've gotten older, I found out there are a lot of things more important to my life than who wins a football game on Saturday.
Yes, sir. When I crossed the state line about 5 years ago, I feel like the first question I was asked is Roll Tide or War Eagle.
Oh, I love to see new folks come into Alabama, and I tell them, you got 48 hours to make a choice.
There you go. Mrs. Kelley,
Yes.
Roll Tide or War Eagle?
I'm going to follow the treasurer's lead,
Yeah,
and
there you
I'll
go,
just say
stay-
Holcomb. I went to Huntington College here in Montgomery,
Okay.
so I'll stay neutral on that as well.
I try and go the same route. My youngest brother went to South Alabama, so I say Jags. It
There you go.
kind of puts me in that neutral
That's
area as
right.
well.
Great school down there in Mobile.
So let's talk a little bit about what the Alabama Able Savings Plan can be used for, and what exactly are some advantages rather than a regular savings account.
Okay, yeah, so there are many things that a Alabama Able Savings Plan can be used for. We have a full list on our website, but let me give you a few examples. It can be for housing, education, health care, funeral expenses, end of care expenses, computers. I mean, you name it, it can be used for that. These guidelines are made by the IRS, and they even put one bullet point in there that says anything that enhances the account owner's life. So,
Yeah.
if you can prove that it somehow enhanced the individual with a disability's life, it could be a qualified expense.
So that kind of leaves it kind of wide open for all different types of expenses, as opposed to what I would think of as a 529 has to be spent specifically on education.
That's right.
But with the Able Savings Plan, as long as you can justify that it's benefiting the person who it's meant for, you can pretty much use that for anything.
That's correct.
So you could use it for like house modifications?
Oh yes, absolutely. Service animals is a really popular one that we get asked about. Yeah, anything that is going to help that individual, down to, if they need someone to handle their trust, then those kind of fees can be paid out of it. If they have enough money that they needed to have someone manage their money. So yeah, lots of different things.
What about like a caregiving experience? If you had to have somebody extra time for somebody to come in on the weekend, could you pay a personal caregiver out of
Yeah,
that?
that actually goes under the heading of the health and assisted living. So yeah, it would fall right up under there. So it's harder to find something that you can't use the
Yeah.
ABLE account for than what you can use it for.
So I would be a little nervous signing up and saying, okay, I can expense these things, but is the IRS, do I have to submit like a specific form to ask permission, or is it more like if you get audited, you have to have documentation?
That's right. So to make a withdrawal, you do not have to prove to us or send in any kind of documentation or receipts saying what you're using the money for. You're certifying that when you do the withdrawal that it can be used for a qualified disability expense or not. You would let us know. And then you keep the receipts. We always tell people, keep your receipts.
Yeah.
So if
So
you
was it
do- or to-
7 years, 10 years,
Yeah,
something like
yeah,
that?
yeah. Well, I keep them a lot longer than that just in case. But yeah, keep your receipts just in case you were audited, but you'll never have to show them to us.
Okay, very cool.
This is one time with their rules and regulation, the IRS was expansive, and it really almost boils down to the name, achieving a better life experience, and whatever helps accomplish that is usually qualifies.
Yeah, I'm excited the IRS got behind that, because when I get a letter from the IRS, I'm like, oh, geez, what did I do wrong? And I always think of very strict, very fine, detailed, but to leave it this open for the community, I think is a blessing, and speaks to that line, like you said, as long as it benefits the life, the long-term process there, it's pretty much allowed.
Right.
Yeah. So what exactly, like how would I go and set up an account? When we talk about the Able Savings Plan, normally I would think if I was setting up a regular checking or savings account, I would walk into my local bank.
Right.
And how does that work for the Able Savings Plan?
So for the Alabama Able Savings Plan, you don't walk into a bank, okay? So every state has the opportunity to offer the plan or an Able plan. Not every state has. And most of them are through the state treasurer's office. And so there isn't a bank that you can go to. What you do is just open everything online. Our website is alabamaable.gov. And you can go online and do it completely online, or you can print out a paper application and mail it in. Either way works.
So it's more online and mailing it in, but then how do I deposit my money? So I can't go and put $10 in a checking account if I can't walk into the bank. So how does that work?
Right, so when you open up the account, you're going to be given the opportunity to link your local bank account with the Able account. important to do that for many reasons. So you can quickly get money in there. So you can do it through ACH and it'll just move straight over there. But also when you're getting money out, it's the quickest way because you can do a withdrawal request and it'll go straight back to your local bank's account as well.
Okay.
Instead of having to wait for a paper check fee, and we all know that
That can take.
post office is a little slower right now. Yeah, so quickest way.
You'll set up the Able savings account, and then you'll link it to your local bank, and then you'll make most of your deposits through your local bank to and from there.
Well, no. Well, you would, if you wanted to move money from your local bank checking account. Okay,
Yeah.
let's say I have a checking account at XYZ Bank here in Montgomery, and I have a balance in there. If I wanted to add, I would just go into that account, since I've already linked it to my Able account, and just put in a request to move $100 to the Able account. So yeah, you wouldn't actually go into the bank, your local bank, and make a deposit directly into Able. I just want to clarify that. Yeah, it would go into your bank account here, and then you would put a transfer request in.
Put a transfer over the internet there.
Yeah.
About how long does it take to set up an Able account?
Less than 10 minutes.
Really?
Yeah, it's very, very quick. We've made the application very streamlined, very easy. So yeah, less than 10 minutes. I will tell you, I've done the paper app and I've done the online. I tend to think the online is a little bit easier, but I always guess I think it's easier because it prompts you as you go. But yeah, very, very quick process.
Now, what types of information do I need in order to open up an Able savings account?
Okay, so in order to open up an Able savings account, you have to, there's some qualifications to be able to be eligible. So I'll go through that first.
Yeah,
if
let's
that's
talk
okay.
about the qualifications.
Yeah, so you have to have experienced your disability prior to age 26. If you did, and you're receiving Social Security benefits such as SSI, you're automatically eligible for the account, okay? If you're not receiving those benefits, then you do need a doctor's certification stating that you are disabled and will continue to be disabled for a minimum of a year, and it's marked or severe, okay? So none of that do you have to bring to us to show us, but that is whether you're eligible or not first. So you could be 95 years old and open up an account as long as the disability started prior to age 26. Okay, so I hope that part is clear. So once you are eligible for the account, then you have to decide whether, is the person with a disability going to open up the account? They are able to do that. And if they do, then all they're going to need is their ID, copy of their ID. Okay, but if they're not able to open up the account, then they'll need an authorized legal representative to do it, okay, otherwise known as an ALR. And that ALR can be a parent if they're a minor, it can be a guardian, a conservator, or it could be a power of attorney. So that person then would open up the account. So you would need a copy of that paperwork showing that you are authorized to do business on behalf of that beneficiary, and then a copy of your ID and the beneficiary's ID. That's it.
That makes sense, though, that you would need that type of information.
Same thing you would need if you walked into a bank to open up an account. You would need those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to kind of put you on the spot here. Out of the Able savings accounts that are currently open, would you say that most of them are opened by a person that has a disability, or more like a friend or a family member?
It is by far more people that have an ALR that needed someone to oversee their account.
Okay.
We do have others where the beneficiary has opened, but it's by far where there's an ALR on the account.
Do you think those are mostly set up for children that are younger at that age? Do you think people are setting them up for children that are younger?
It's a really good mix. We've seen that, but we've also seen organizations where the organization is the ALR over the individual.
Okay.
And I don't want to call out a specific, for privacy reasons, but where they are in charge of that person's funds. And so they've opened up the account. And what we've really seen a lot of accounts opened up is that I guess one of the main things I should have said from the beginning is that the purpose of these accounts is that it lets an individual save more than $2,000 without impacting their benefits, such as SSI or Medicaid. Okay, so they can save up to $100,000 in this account. So a lot of these accounts are open because people were being forced to spend down money to keep under that $2,000 limit on unnecessary items where
Yeah.
they couldn't save for the future. Well, now they can get their SSI benefits, their Medicaid benefits, and save up to $100,000 in this account. And so that's a lot of the accounts that we're seeing.
Yeah,
open.
especially during the pandemic, because the government was where they were giving these stimulus checks, these $1,400 stimulus checks and what have you. And if you're right on the cusp, that could bump you above the $2,000 limit and really affect some of the services that you could receive.
That's right.
So I imagine some people were kind of interested in opening up the Able Savings Plan right when they started to get those checks.
That's right. Well, that's where a big jump came from last year, was from those payments. And then I had a call yesterday where someone, it was the sister of someone that needs an account because their parents passed away and they're receiving an inheritance, and she wanted to do as her parents had said and equally divide it like it said in the will. And in order to do that without him losing his benefits, she's opening up an Able account for him.
Yeah, that's amazing. So you can have up to $100,000, no more though.
Correct. If you're receiving Social Security benefits. If you're not, you can have up to $475,000 in this account.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah, it is.
That's good.
Yeah. Now, there is one stipulation. You can only deposit $15,000 per year, and that's calendar year. So January to December, only $15,000 per year into the account.
Okay. How would that work for the inheritance thing? Would the sister just hold that money in her name until she could just put 15 in a
Oh,
year?
yeah, I don't know if they would have, they probably would have to open up a trust at that point. Now, this inheritance happened to be, I think it was right around $5,000, so we were going to be fine with this.
Yeah.
But anytime you're talking about a larger amount, like an insurance settlement or something, we do say, hey, there's room for an Able account, but you might also want to get with someone about a special needs trust.
Yeah, and even then you could kind of put the 15 from the special needs trust into the Able each year if you wanted to
Absolutely.
set that up automatically.
That's right.
So that's pretty cool.
Alex, let me mention one thing here. Anita talked about the 26-year-old. We are constantly trying to get Congress to up that age limit, but primarily because, or a big part of it, the disabled veterans that we see. We all see that all the time, and that's an important constituency that really could use this same mechanism to be able to save for their future and families and so forth.
I like how you brought that up, and I'd like to follow it up. Why do you think the cutoff right now is 26?
I'm not really sure. What did this program pass initially in Congress, 95 or
No,
something?
2014.
Oh, 214, more recent than that.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure. I really don't. I'm sure there was some sort of reason. I'm not sure how logical it might be, but certainly we see the need to change that age limit.
Yeah, because something could happen, like you said. We have young men and women
Well, it could
serving.
be a car wreck, it could be military, it could be all kinds of illness, it could be all kinds of different things where a significant disability occurs and they need this opportunity.
Yeah, I hope we get that raised up to 50, and go from there. I don't know why it wouldn't be able to anybody at any age, because something could happen in your 70s or, and it's a great tax advantage thing to put in there. So let's talk a little bit about, we've heard, we've talked about Enable savings plans before, a few years ago, and is very similar concept. But we're talking about something new today. We're talking about the Alabama Able Savings Plan. And I'd like you to distinguish between the two if you could.
Okay. Well, it's several years ago when Able was passed back in 2014, Alabama was we were ready to open up these accounts and get them open for individuals with disabilities. And so we, like a lot of other states, partnered with other programs that were able to get theirs up and running quickly. So at that point we did partner with the state of Nebraska and have enjoyed a great partnership with them. Since 2017 is when we started opening up accounts here in Alabama. But like the treasurer said, we wanted to look at doing something special for our citizens and look at estate tax deduction. And in order to do that, we needed to have our own plan and hold those funds here in the state of Alabama in its own trust. So we decided it was a great time to look at starting our own plan. So now the new plan that launched May 17th, I think was the exact date.
That's right.
That is the Alabama Able Savings Plan, and it is the only plan for Alabama citizens that is open now. It's the official, the official plan. So, yeah.
So from here on out, when you guys hear Able Savings Plan, you'll know that this is the new one, not what you have been hearing for the last few years.
That's right.
It's Alabama Able Plan.
And I like that we're bringing it in-house, in-state here. I feel like it gives us a little bit more control over how we can implement these changes here.
We're really grateful for the legislature. Incidentally, I think even though it did not pass promptly during the early part of the session, I think I know in the House on that final day, because we watched it so close, and I think the Senate too, it was a unanimous vote for those that were there that day. We had, I think it was 102 to nothing in the House, but we have 2 or 3 vacancies that are being filled. So that's indicative of the kind of support we got from the legislature when they learned what we were doing and the significance to the disabled community.
Yeah, I'm not sure how many things passed with unanimous
Not
vote,
many,
but
especially on the last day.
yeah. And it can be, I imagine, I've never gone and spoken with our congressmen and women, but I imagine it can be hard to inform them of exactly what the bill is there. But once you get the point across, they're totally on board, like, yeah, this makes sense, let's bring it in-house.
Yeah.
And it almost reminds me a little bit, like if there was something new I was going to pursue and learn, I would almost link up with somebody that was up and running and kind of work as their assistant or, just for free and learn the trade. And then once I learned the trade, I would kind of start my own thing. And I feel like that kind of describes, in a roundabout way, we learned all about the Enable Savings Plan and how to do that, and then we brought it back in home so that we have it here in Alabama just for us. And I think as a consumer, I'm a lot more attracted to that than banking with somebody in Nebraska, even if everything's been great. I just like to have things closer.
Yeah, whatever we evaluate, we like to see a good track record there, and we're proud of that. Anita and her team do a fantastic job. The legislators, one of the biggest things we heard from legislators as they discussed this final passage was, why hadn't we heard about this? And that's our big challenge right now,
Yes.
and why we appreciate so much what you're doing, because we want to get the word out there and let our folks in this community know that there's opportunity there for them, for the extended family to contribute. There's a lot of benefits for a big circle of friends and neighbors and family to participate in this.
I'd like to kind of circle back to that because we can talk about legislation and bills being passed, but from a consumer, if I keep hearing the Alabama Able Savings Plan, it really has to connect with me how it's going to make a difference in my life. And we've given some examples here like housing, education, healthcare, end-of-care caregivers. If you could give us some more specific examples, I think it would help us connect with that a little bit more.
Yeah, so I'll give you some specific examples without naming names, of course.
Please.
But our first Able account owner, when we had our first plan, she was saving for a service dog. And her current service dog was getting a little older, and so she needed to go ahead and get a new one and start training. That's when I first found out, how expensive a service dog can be and the training.
Yeah.
I think it's around $20,000, and so what she had done was set up a GoFundMe account. Well, people were contributing to help her get the new dog, and then once I think the account had been open a short period of time, GoFundMe will contact you and say, you got to start withdrawing the money because we're not a savings account, you can't leave it here. And then she was like, well, what am I going to do? If I withdraw it and put it in my account, I'm going to jeopardize my benefits. She was receiving Social Security. Well, that was right at the time that the Alabama Able was opening. So she opened one and was able to start putting that money in there. So I love that story. And loved that account owner as well. Our first account owner in the new plan, she's saving for her daughter. She has a child with a disability and a child without a disability. And she wants to be able to save for the child with a disability just like she does for her other child. other examples, we've partnered a lot with oh gosh, the Eagles program at Auburn and Passages at USA. And there are, for when if you have a child that's going to transition at one point and want to go to someplace and get a higher education, those programs are wonderful, but they're not free. So it's a great way for you to be able to save for them, just like you do for your other children. So those are some examples I can think of. Another thing that we hear about is people just wanting to save for their child for the day when they're not here. They want the same level of care to go. Maybe I talked to a lady a week ago that they have taken care of their child all of his life, and they're getting older, and they want to be able to pay for someone to continue that care when they're gone. And so she's like, this is just a great way for us to be able to save for him. So
yeah,
I hope that's some good examples. There's so many more, but those are some of the ones that personally, I just remember and stand out to me.
And Anita mentioned something that is so significant, and I'm aware of it, and you're certainly aware of it with our personal experiences, but not only do you always have the caregivers getting older, but you have the person that's disabled getting older and requiring more, as Anita said, more resources of one kind or another. So the savings, the ability to have these savings programs can be just so critical down the road.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head there. As we all get older, we need more help.
Yeah.
We're going to need extra services or whatever that looks like. And I love those examples that you guys are giving because it helps be concrete. And I think I would say to the audience, if you even have a question like, is this a possible scenario where I should use an ABLE savings plan? Call.
Absolutely.
Call Mrs. Kelley,
Right.
and she's wonderful, and she'll kind of say, yeah, that's perfect, and this is how you can do it here. I would like to touch a little bit on the tax advantages of having a Alabama ABLE savings plan, because someone might say, well, I can just open up a checking account and leave the money in there, or I'll just throw it into the market, the S&P 500, and then whenever they need it, I'll cash out some stock there. So what is the money and the tax advantage of having an Alabama ABLE savings plan?
You want me to cover that?
Yeah, please do.
So, well, as we've talked about, your contributions can be tax deductible on your state tax returns. So it's very exciting. But also, when you put the money in, you can either put it into an FDIC savings account. It's going to earn a little bit of interest. But we also have 3 investment options, and those options are based on how you like to invest, what your risk tolerance is. So it's going to be whether it's conservative, moderate, or aggressive. All 3 of those mutual funds contain Vanguard funds, very low cost funds, really good track records with them. But you put your money in there, and then while it's growing, it's tax deferred. Same thing as with college savings, okay? It's growing tax deferred. As long as you take that money out for a qualified disability expense, and if you remember, that list is expansive, right? As long as you take it out, then when you take it out, all those earnings, so all that interest that you have earned possibly in those accounts is going to be tax-free. So in a normal account, you'd have to pay gains, right, on anything you've earned. These accounts you wouldn't, as long as it's a qualified disability expense.
I just kind of want to summarize that for anybody that might be a little bit jargony. So for the state tax deduction, let's say I set up an Alabama ABLE savings plan for my family member. I put $5,000 of earned income into hers from me. I can take $5,000 off of what would be taxed for me as income through the state of Alabama at the end of the year. Let's say I put in $5,000 for her, so that will be $5,000 less that I'd be taxed on for the state of Alabama. But in, let's say, 11 years, that $5,000 went to $10,000 in a Vanguard list of stocks.
Right.
Went to $10,000 in 11 years. Now, if I were just going to do that in the regular market and then pull that out and spend it on my family member, I would be taxed at a certain percentage. Let's just say 20% of that. So I would lose $2,000 of that just to taxes, and then I could spend that $8,000 on my family member. But using this ABLE savings plan, I put the $5,000 in 11 years it goes up to $10,000. I spend that money on my family member, I get the full $10,000. She gets the full $10,000. There's no $2,000 of taxes taken out.
That's right. As long as it's a qualified disability expense under the IRS rules, then yes, any withdrawals made are they come out tax-free.
And that $2,000 may not seem like a lot over 10 years, but if you keep adding $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 into this account over years, that tax implication can add up to an extra year of college.
Right.
Gets us right back to Einstein's eighth wonder. Real quick.
Yes, sir. I think it's important to drive that home. Over time, that it's going to add up to a lot of money that you're going to be able to keep for your family or your loved one or yourself in your pocket. So let's go back a little bit to, we have the older Enable savings plan that maybe some Alabamians signed up with over the past few years, and now they're being introduced to the new Alabama Able savings plan. And for some, it might be like, oh, it's just all this one savings plan, and think that they're automatically going to be transferred over. Is that the case?
It is not. So we did mail out a letter jointly with our treasurer and the treasurer from Nebraska, informing all the current account holders of Enable, letting them know, that, hey, there's a new plan and what was going on. I've had lots of phone calls, lots of emails about it, so it's been very exciting. But no, so if they don't, and we kind of spelled that out in the letter saying, if you don't do anything, then, what your account is going to become is the Nebraska plan, okay? So it's going to be fully administered by the Nebraska plan, and the state of Alabama we have no interest in it anymore. And I don't mean interest as in we don't care, but we don't have any say-so in the account anymore. Right. So it'll just become the Nebraska plan. So if you want this, and you won't get the tax deduction, even though you're an Alabama citizen. Remember, the only official Alabama plan is the Alabama Able Savings Plan. You have to have that one to get the tax deduction for your
state
contributions.
Tax deduction.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right. And you won't have the oversight of your Alabama State Treasurer, along with the board that does a fabulous job of looking after this program and making the best decisions for it. So you have your local board with people that you may know from all across the state looking over this account.
Yeah, and you can call Anita, Mrs. Kelley.
That's right. You get me too.
Yeah, exactly. You can call her on the phone. It's not like you got to.
And that's exactly why we were so excited and thrilled to get that legislation passed. It's such an asset for Alabama disabled community.
It really is, and I always I go to my local bank. I don't bank with somebody that's out of state. I go to Service First in Birmingham. I give them a shout out. They're a great bank. And so I think staying in state and close to home is the way to go.
Yeah.
And you also get that state tax deduction.
Yeah.
So the Enable savings plans will not be automatically transferred.
Well, they'll be automatically transferred to the Nebraska plan. So they're kind of going to be absorbed by Nebraska, okay? And so, yeah, if you are interested in moving to the Alabama plan, and there's so many other things, that are a little bit different than the old plan, so, yeah, we encourage everybody to call us. I'll be glad to talk through what the differences are and what might be best for them. But if you do want to open up the Alabama plan, you either go to our website, call me, I'll walk you through it, open up the new account, and you do a rollover form. And so what that rollover form does is it is going to list your old Able account, and you can do this if you have the Mississippi plan. It doesn't matter. So you can always, anybody can move, do a rollover. You can only do one every 12 months. But you will fill out the rollover form, send that in with your application, or upload it if you're doing it online. And then what that does is it gives us the authority to act on your behalf to go to your old plan, whether it's Enable or any other plan, and move that money here to the new Alabama plan. I always suggest doing it that way, letting us take care of it for you. There's a rule that you can only have one Able account ever, not ever, but at one time. That's right.
Yeah.
The one exception to that is you do have a 60-day window when you're doing a rollover. Okay, so you're giving it to us. We're going to act on it quickly. We're going to go straight to the old plan. We're going to have the money mailed straight to us and deposited in your account. So we're taking out you as the middleman with the delay and possibly the check, and then you having to turn around and mail it to us. And so it just gets done a lot quicker, and we know we can get it done, within the 60-day time frame.
So it sounds pretty similar. So it's just one form, a rollover form there.
Application and rollover form. So you do have to open up the new account, and then on the rollover form, you're going to reference your old account number and your new account number.
Now, is there any tax implications for the rollover?
There is not.
See, that I feel like it would be taking out of one account, you'd have to be taxed if it's not spent on those.
Yeah, that was where the extra over the 60 days comes in.
Yes.
So you don't. That's why you want to let us do it and handle it within. I mean, of course, and you can do it. Yourself. You can request the money and then do it. But if we're doing it, we're gonna act quickly on it and get it done within the 60 days.
You mentioned there are some differences. Mm-hmm. Is there any that you'd like to point out?
Yeah, so we have a gifting page, okay, that I really am excited about, and the people that I have had the pleasure of going really in depth into their account once it's open, they're excited about it as well. So once your account is open, we have an option where you can go in and create a gifting page completely free of charge. And what it does is it allows you to set up this page, show what you're possibly trying to save for, what your goal is or whatever. The page is then, you can share it with your family and friends.
Okay. That's cool.
So if you were saving for that service dog, or if you were saving for anything special, or if you're like, I have a small child and she gets really too many toys every birthday and Christmas, right? They all do, just want you to know, I have an ABLE account for my daughter, you could actually do a gifting contribution to that. So it's just a great way to share, and you can share as little or as much as you want. You don't have to tell them your savings goal. You don't have to show how much you've, GoFundMe will say, oh, we've raised 5,000 of 10,000 is our goal. You don't have to show that, but it's just a great way to let people know. And the people that I've talked to have said, yeah, we've had to raise money in the past for our child because of this, this, and this, and we just had to send out, email after email after email. You don't have to do that with this.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It reminds me of like if someone's getting married and having kind of a registry.
Yeah.
Where they can go in and
tie
kind
the
of
knot.
Yeah, exactly. This is what we're saving for. These are our plans and our goals, and then it makes it really easy to share from there to all the different platforms that you have.
Right.
So I really like that.
Yeah, I love it. I think it's a great option. I think more people are going to utilize that, the more they learn about that.
Yeah. And even if it's like, instead of for my birthday, this is what I'd like you to do, is maybe donate to my friend's, ABLE savings account.
That's right.
So that's pretty cool.
That's right.
Alex, I keep, several times I've alluded to my admiration and appreciation to Anita and what she does with these savings programs, but our viewers need to also understand that she's highly respected nationally. She has a leadership position in particularly the ABLE program at the national level. So she's a tremendous asset to the folks in our community that need to know more, and she loves to inform people. You can see the enthusiasm, and she's that way all the time. So don't feel like you're bothering her to call you. It makes her day.
No, thank you. And if he's going to dote on me, I might as well mention that Treasurer McMillan is the vice chair of the National ABLE Committee. So that's with all the states involved, and so he, along with another treasurer, are the lead of that committee, helping to make decisions and kind of lead the rest of the country when it comes to the ABLE account. So
thank you.
You're welcome. Does a great job.
Is there anything that you can say that you see at a higher level that will be coming out in the next few months or years, even though it might be a little bit ahead of its time?
Can you think of anything? I can't think of anything. Anita knows a lot more than I do.
Yeah, well, they are really trying to get the ABLE Age Adjustment Act
passed, the 26 cap.
Yeah.
Got to go.
That's right.
Now, will that be a federal thing?
Yeah,
Yes.
Congress.
Yeah.
Congress set the program up as they did the other savings programs, like education, and then gave IRS the responsibility to adopt the rules and regulations. The 529, in fact, is the IRS code that governs the education savings.
That's the exact code.
Yeah, so that's the way most everything works in Washington, for better or worse. Congress passes it and hands it over to some federal agency to get into the fine details. And so that's probably our biggest focus nationally right now. We're gonna get it sooner or later.
Yeah, I was going to ask you guys think it'll be in the next few years or a little bit further out than that?
It's just hard to say. But hopefully, the sooner the better. That's for sure.
And what is the ask there? Is it 27 or is it 30?
46.
40. So the ask is 40. That's quite a big increase.
Now we would like it to not have.
Yeah, we would like it more,
Yeah.
because think about stroke disabilities, for example, and other illnesses. it can be a very meaningful thing to a family
Yes, sir.
Right.
and a person.
Well, I think once it's introduced and everyone knows about it on the federal level, it'd probably be the same thing here in Alabama, unanimous vote.
Hope so.
But the downfall would be less tax money for the federal government.
Yeah,
then.
that plays into it for sure.
Yeah.
It definitely would affect the overall.
But it's
revenue.
such a limited percentage of the population that can take advantage of. But that percentage gets bigger as the age
That's right.
goes up. So that's what they're dealing with there as well. So that makes sense. I see it from their side too. Almost makes you want to ask for 90 and settle on 46.
Yeah.
That kind of comes down there. So we're introducing the new plan as of May of this year. And what would you say to somebody that's like, well, we had the old plan, we're going to get the new plan, but how do we make sure we don't have to go through this again in a few years?
Right. That's a great question, and I've been asked that. So, again, great partnership that we had prior, but we partnered with them and thought that was the best way to get the accounts out there as soon as possible for Alabama citizens instead of the time it would have taken for us to start our own program from the ground up. So, again, with the new tax legislation and the possibility of doing that, we were like, this is the perfect time. Well, now it's in-house. It's here in the state of Alabama. So there won't be any other conversions or, hey, this program is ending, you're going to have to open up a new one. It is the Alabama Able Savings Plan. Now, yeah, there could be some, changes internally, but that wouldn't affect the account owners to where they had to open up a new plan by any means. And that happens with anything. But yeah, it won't happen again.
Because that would be one of I don't like it when my credit or my debit card expires and I got to go through and update all the vendors, and that's just a big pain, or open a new account. So I would want to make sure that it was something I can stick with. And even though there might be, slight changes in there, as long as I'm notified, but I don't have to change all the information or open new accounts, would be a really big help.
Right. And yeah, that won't happen.
Yeah, and remember, in the whole scheme of things, this is a relatively new program, 2014, did you say? So, that's in the history of the state and the country, that's a new program. So, definitely they made a wise decision to combine with other states. It wasn't just Nebraska, well, a number of states involved. Nebraska was the lead state, the managing partner, if you want to call it that. So, anyway, that was the way to go, and now we're ready to take the next step.
Now, do you guys see this also happening at a national level where other states are starting to in-house on a little bit more frequency?
Oh, yeah. So I think right now it's 43 states and the Washington, D.C. have the plans. You're starting to see people break out and do their own plans, but you're also starting to see some of the states that have kind of sat back for a while and not opened up plans. They're starting to open up. So yeah, it's a lot of growth. Everybody's seeing how exciting this program is and really the difference it can make. So
it's really exciting for the consumers and the clients, people it serves, and it seems like such a no-brainer. And as you mentioned, it's still very young in the life cycle of these types of programs and offerings. This is like its first month of being a new company kind of thing, where you're just kind of working through and getting yourself stabilized there. So it's very exciting just to have this year. What is the goal for some new accounts?
Well, as we said earlier, that's our biggest challenge, is getting the word out that we have this program. We have the renewed program, the Alabama program, and we're just going to do our best with the resources we have to get it out. And things like you are doing could not be. I mean, that is huge to us to have the opportunity to reach into the disabled community that you have access to. And Anita's got good contacts with other allied type groups, and so we're just going to do everything we can to grow this program and make it more and more attractive as time goes on.
I really appreciate you saying that. And as you're going through that, I'm thinking of a little bit of a book I read where it's like when you're coming out with something new, you'll have some early adopters that will sign up, but then you get to a critical mass point and it just takes off on its own. And then you have
the word gets out there in our particular community. I mean, we don't have the resources of the My Pillow guy, somebody to really let everybody know about it. But
He's everywhere.
But we're going to get everybody that we can reach to know about the availability and get them in touch with Anita and get signed up in these programs.
Well, we appreciate you spending the morning with us and getting the word out. Now, but other things like this, are you guys holding in-person or over the internet presentations or webinars to also get the word out?
We will do anything. So we've done a lot of webinars, especially through the pandemic. We really learned to master doing the Zoom calls, and we've done them after hours, weekends, whatever we need to do in order to get the word out. I attended the Resource Roundup in Prattville, I guess about a month or two ago. I guess what's important to know is that any opportunity that we have out there to reach one person, we're going to take advantage of. So if you are a member of a group, if anybody that's listening is a member of a group, knows an organization, knows of an expo that's coming up, please call my office and we will do our best to either attend or schedule some kind of presentation to let you know. And whether it's the consumer on the end that would be on that, or if it's a kind of training for, if you're an organization that has a bunch of employees that you want them to know about the ABLE plan, any of those, we'll do anything.
I really like the idea of going to an organization like that and educating the staff
Yes.
there, because that kind of is a big punch for the time there.
Right.
And I can't wait for us to start doing these in-person expos again. And have tables and breakout sessions there, because I feel like that's such a critical way to help disseminate information to the community.
Absolutely.
It is, and as you can see, Anita's enthusiasm is contagious. So
Every time I see Anita, she's always, "Hey, Anita!" But we're also going to put it in chat after we're done going live here, but I'd like you to talk a little bit about the website and the contact info if anyone would like to plug that in or give you a call directly.
Yep, so it's alabamaable.gov, very easy. If you Google it, you might get other programs that come up first. It's all on how people pay, but you want to make sure that it says alabamaable and .gov is going to be the big, differentiating factor about that. And of course, we have an email address here at Treasury that my staff and I are checking constantly. It's able@treasury.alabama spelled out .gov, and that will come directly to me and my staff where we can get back with you. If you go to our website, we have a phone number there. I especially like to send people to that 800 number when they're opening an account.
Okay.
They can help them real time and see what's going on if they have any issues or questions while they're opening up the account that I don't have the ability to see.
Now, does the 800 still come here to Alabama?
It does not. It goes to our program manager,
Okay.
which that's how it's going to be with anybody. But yes, it goes to our program manager, and they are wonderful. They've been specifically trained on how to not only know our system, but to also know the needs and wants of the disability community and try to help them any way they can.
Yeah. And what is that number? Do you know it off the top of your head?
I don't. I should have looked it up.
No, it's okay. The website we'll put in the chat
Okay,
there for everybody
okay.
listening. Well, as we kind of come to a close today, that's okay. We'll keep recording. As we kind of come to a close today, is there anything that we haven't talked about that you think a person with a disability or a family member, a loved, close friend, could benefit from hearing?
Hold on. Phoenix just stopped responding.
We're going to keep going.
Okay.
okay.
Do you want to take that, Treasurer? You want me to?
I don't have an idea. The thought comes straight into my head right now. Do you?
Well, I just think that, people, I hear so many stories of people spending down money instead of being able to save and to keep it under that 2,000 mark. And I know we talked about it earlier, but, when I really talk to especially organizations that are helping individuals, they are just amazed and ecstatic that there's a program out there like this that is relatively inexpensive. I don't think we talked about the fees, but this is, to have this account, it's a $35 annual fee. That's $8.75 a quarter.
That's nothing.
It's nothing, So it's a very low cost way to be able to save money for the future. Some of the bigger things I hear about sometimes is, people spending down and then all of a sudden the individual has dental work that needs to be done. Oh my God, even if you have insurance, dental work is so expensive, and then they had to spend down to be below $2,000 on things they didn't even need.
Yeah.
So it's just a great way for them to be able to save, just like everyone has the
You
ability
need a
to
security
safe.
security fund there.
That's right. That's right. So I think that's the main thing. Is I just want to say, if you know of an individual that has a disability, or if you are a person that has a disability, it doesn't hurt you to call me. Let me just see if it'll help you. And if we can't, which I would think would be a rare occasion, we'll let you know. But we'll help any way we can.
I think being able to spend it on all of those different benefits, being wide open, speaks a lot to the federal, the state, and everything that you guys do in supporting the community.
Yeah.
I know people may not be familiar with each of you and your names, but the work that you guys do for the community is, thank you on behalf of myself and Clifton and the community. So,
Yeah, well, listen, thank you for helping us get the word out.
now, at this point, we'll go ahead and end the broadcast. And if you guys want to go ahead and give your respective cameras a little wave, and we'll say, see you next time.
See you next time.
Great.